Today we're exploring one of the most beautiful and jaw-dropping areas of Utah. We'll be exploring some of the best trails in Moab. Moab is one of the best road trip destinations and base camps for any and all adventures in Arches and Canyonlands national parks. But today we're diving deep into some of the best hidden gems in the greater Moab area. Hiking trails that are off the beaten path and ones that feature places you've probably never even heard of. But really quick before we start, it would mean the world to me if you could give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, we have hundreds of travel guides and hiking vlogs on the channel, but let's dive right in. This is my top 10 hidden gems in Moab, Utah. First up on the list is Colonnade Arch, located geographically west of Moab, but to get to the trailhead, you will have to drive around Canyonlands, so the drive is much further than the actual geographic distance. The drive from Moab is roughly 2 hours one way, but I promise it's worth it. You will have to drive on a long dirt road, but if conditions are comparable to when we did this last January, any car can make it to the trailhead. And once you're at the trailhead, you'll hike anywhere from 3 to 3.8 miles round trip with roughly 300 feet of elevation gain. Mileage will vary based on how much you run around the arches, but Colonnade Arch is known for having 5 distinct arches, all unique in their own way. But before you reach the arch, you'll have to look out for Crocodile Rock, a really cool rock structure. It's tough to see, but just stay on the all trail, and if you hike counterclockwise like us, you should see it on your right hand side. And then once you reach the arches, you'll be greeted with stunning views of the canyon and the arches. They were so much fun to climb around on, and it made for some great landscape photography. Next up at number 2, we have Marlboro Point. This is an incredible spot located between Dead Horse State Park and Canyonlands National Park. It's a viewpoint that's roughly 45 minutes from Moab and features endless stunning views of the canyon below and the nearby buttes and rock towers. It almost looks like Monument Valley, but in some ways it's even cooler. To visit Marlboro Point, you will need 4-wheel drive and or high clearance. We made it no problem in a Toyota 4Runner, but anything less than this, I probably wouldn't even attempt driving the road. There was a lot of big rocks and rough terrain. And although we never have, I know a few friends who have camped here, and I can't imagine a more beautiful place to wake up. At number 3, we're heading to Uranium Arch. This trail has one of the gnarliest 4-wheel drive roads Bree and I have ever done. We dinged up our running boards, and granted, we are relatively new to 4-wheel drive adventures, but it's pretty serious. From Moab, you'll drive 15 minutes to a dirt road turnoff that is across from Moab's Under Canvas Hotel. The best guide we found for driving or hiking here is the All Trails map. On one hand, you can park at the start of the All Trails hike, which is more or less parking at a campground. If you have 2-wheel drive, this is what you would do. From here, you would then hike 6.4 miles round trip with 800 feet of elevation gain, and it's worth every step. Now, if you do have 4-wheel drive vehicle with clearance, you can pretty much drive right up to the arch, but again, a serious disclaimer, this road was insane. Bree and I parked about a mile away from the arch, so we didn't make it the whole way, and we still beat up our car pretty bad. Most stock vehicles would have a tough time getting all the way to the arch, but whether you drive or hike, this place is unreal, and it's one of my now favorite arches in Moab. Next up, we're hiking the Grand Staff Trail to Morning Glory Arch. This hike was beautiful. It ends at the arch, which is stunning, but honestly, I enjoyed the trail itself more than the arch destination for this one. The arch is massive, but it is pretty tough to photograph. The trail is just a 10-minute drive from Moab, and it's roughly 4.5 miles round trip with 400 feet of elevation gain. And now I want to mention, the trailhead sign talks about a handful of river crossings. Maybe there are certain times of the year, but Bree and I did this hike in January, and we were able to avoid getting our shoes wet. There was a lot of rock hopping, but nothing deep enough to where there wasn't a line through each river crossing. And another thing I want to note is that as beautiful as this trail was, I bet it's even more beautiful in the spring or summer when the trees are full of lush greenery. All of the trees and plant life were pretty dead when we went, but that's on us. For number 5, we're heading to Aztec Butte, which is actually inside Canyonlands Island in the Sky District, which is 45 minutes away from Moab. This district of the park is one of the busiest areas, but we just found out about this short trail recently and loved it, and we only saw 2 other people out there while we hiked. This was the perfect thing to do for sunset. The trail is 1.6 miles round trip with about 300 feet of elevation gain. You'll actually climb one of the desert buttes in the park, a very short but steep climb. This gives you great views of Canyonlands in every direction, and then after climbing Aztec Butte, you'll head back on the trail that you came out on and then take a quick detour to the granary. This is a cool rock formation where indigenous people once stored food and medicines inside the structure, and if you go for sunset, the sun will shine on the granary, giving it a beautiful orange glow. Before we go any further, I want to note that a handful of the trails in this video are dog friendly. I don't want to say which are which and which aren't, solely because we didn't bring our own dogs, but most of the trails outside of the national parks, we saw dogs. Make sure to research this again beforehand, but that's great to know in case you are traveling traveling or road tripping with your dog and you're looking for hikes outside of the national parks. And also, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Bri and I have traveled to more than 30 countries together and have done more road trips than I could count. We have hundreds of videos on the channel just like this. Anyways, let's get back to it. Our next location at number 6 is Horseshoe Canyon. This is also in Canyonlands National Park, but it's in an area that sees very little traffic relative to the Island in the Sky District. The trailhead is 2 to 2.5 hours away from Moab, so it is a far day trip. The trailhead is actually very close to Colonnade Arch, so you could, in theory, camp out this way and kind of between the two locations and then visit both Colonnade Arch and Horseshoe Canyon, but Bri and I did these as day trips from Moab. Horseshoe Canyon is a beautiful hike in Canyonlands that will take you through stunning landscapes that most of the national park's visitors never see. You'll descend into the canyon on a 7.2-mile round-trip hike with about 1,400 feet of elevation gain. This remote trail is home to some of North America's most significant ancient rock art, featuring very well-preserved pictographs and petroglyphs. At number 7, we'll be staying in the national parks and hiking the Fiery Furnace, arguably the most unique hike in Arches and also the least traffic. You will need to plan ahead because you can only do this hike with a permit from rec.gov. I imagine you could also probably get a last-minute permit at the visitor center, but I recommend getting this online ahead of time. We did this in January and it was very easy to get a permit. We had almost all of the trail to ourselves. In the summer, I imagine it's much tougher to get a permit because they only do 150 per day, so you have to plan ahead and maybe set alarms for when new permits get released, and then you pick up your permit at the visitor center the day before or the day of. They'll have you sit down to watch a video with everything you need to know for this hike and the leave no trace principles as you explore the offshoot slot canyons. And then once you're at the hike, it's 2.1 miles round trip with 500 feet of elevation gain, but you should be prepared for up to 3.5 miles for all of the wandering that you're going to be doing. Exploring the offshoot slot canyons off of the main trail is just like one big maze. You'll get lost amongst some of the best landscapes Arches has to offer. And if you can't score a permit, it's worth noting that you can still visit the trailhead as there is an overlook just a few hundred feet from the parking lot, so you can still see the Fiery Furnace from a distance without a permit. Next up, we have a very family-friendly destination. We're heading to Mill Canyon Dinosaur Track Site. This is just a 20-minute drive from Moab and all cars can make it to the trailhead, and it's worth noting that there are campsites here. It's hard to really call this a hike as the boardwalk is just a few hundred feet from the car, but here you will get to see a wide variety of well-marked dinosaur footprints. Kids will love it, and there's signs showing you what dinosaur made each footprint, and there's signs with all sorts of interesting information about the track site's history. We came in the late afternoon, but it is recommended to come here at sunrise. Apparently, that is when the footprints have the most contrast and the best light on them for viewing them. At number 9, we're hiking to Mill Creek Waterfall, a short but beautiful 1.6 mile round trip hike with little to no elevation gain. The trailhead is less than a 10-minute drive from Moab, so this is a great outing to pair with another hike in the same day. There were 2 river crossings, but we were able to avoid them easily by rock hopping. I definitely want to come back here because when we came, it was January and very cold, and also the weather wasn't great. It was super cloudy and gray, which is a bummer because we could tell that if the sun was out, the water would beam a beautiful bright blue color, and in the summer, this makes for a great swimming hole to hang out at. Last up at number 10, we're hiking Professor Creek to Mary Jane Canyon. This trailhead is about 35 minutes from Moab, and the hike totals to 7.6 miles round trip with 550 feet of elevation gain. It will lead you to stunning slot canyons and beautiful views of Castle Valley, Castle Tower, and Fisher Towers in the distance. We were blown away by this hike. This is one you'll want to do in the summer as there are a million river crossings and it would be the perfect refreshing water hike. We could avoid the water for most of the hike, but different times of the year, different water levels could affect how deep the water is. We actually weren't able to make it the entire way, sadly, but this is definitely a hike we'll come back to finish the last little bit we missed. And before we sign off, I want to add a quick bonus, Double O Arch. This is one of the many arches along the Devil's Garden Trail in Arches National Park. However, most people that hike the Devil's Garden stick to Landscape Arch because of its famed length, but I gotta say, Double O Arch is the coolest one on this trail and one of the coolest in the park. I've never seen photos of this before, so this is a great one to add to your list. Anyways, that is gonna wrap up this video. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions or share any of your own Moab experiences, please leave a comment down below. But thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys on another video.